Welcome to Free Range. Scott Lemriel reveals the deliberately hidden truth and the way for others to recover it with knowing certainty by their own direct awakening experiences. To be effective, revealing hidden truth must also involve assisting others, with friends from very far out of town, to recover who they are and all they once knew before it was taken from them. Here is your host, Gail of Gaia, with her guest, Scott Lemriel.
So, hi Gail, we just started recording.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and I'm here today with Scott Lemriel, and...
Or just Lemriel, it's so much easier. Scott just sounds like it's so abrupt. Scott, I've never been comfortable with that name. My last name, legal name, I don't use because I'm not comfortable with it either. Mainly because
I can relate to that.
I'm mostly not from here, so... And the more I do work with people, they find out they themselves are not from here. You get a little further and you realize nobody on Earth is originally from here. No human being is from Earth originally. Human beings never evolved on Earth. And when you begin to understand that, you begin to see a lot more. Your consciousness naturally begins to focus on other worlds and other realities and other dimensions, which, as normal human beings, as Atmas, or what people call soul, we should be playing in the multiverse, even while we're running a body on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we should be naturally and normally. People on Earth are not natural or normal. They think they are, but not mostly. If you get them to be honest with themselves, they all realize they don't know who they are, how they got here, where they're going, if there's really a heaven, what happens after they die. They're in fear, subconsciously motivated, manipulated fear. Almost everybody on Earth.
That fear seems to be escalating right now, too.
Not any more than it's ever been on Earth.
You don't think so?
No. You just got a communication system that allows you to see all the dirty deeds everybody does to each other anywhere else on Earth instantly. So naturally, you're going to begin to think that it's happening on every corner. It's not happening any more evil or killing and murdering people or raping people or anything that goes on here than that happened 10,000 years ago by tyrant royal families, murdered masses of people. They had controlled religions, and if you didn't do what the religions told you, they'd kill you or kill the priests. This is the way religions got founded on this planet, not by some god somewhere. Tyrant kings, in cooperation with the priests they controlled for a share of the loot, basically got religions founded here to control people, to keep them ignorant. And so I'm not saying anything negative about religions or the way people believe, except that it doesn't allow them, it doesn't encourage them to have direct experience about what they believe in. Basically, they encourage people to wait till they die and then go to some heaven somewhere and find out then. And look at the condition of the world that kind of thinking has caused. Hasn't changed anything.
No, it really hasn't. I don't know. I guess people, maybe they don't see that. I don't know why, but it hasn't changed anything, and it just continues.
Yeah, I think whatever a person's faith may be or religious practice, it's important that they have real dynamic experience in their particular faith. In other words, their faith needs to become alive, not just belief, emotional, they get an emotional ecstatic high, an artificial high, and then start to believe in something the rest of their life. People do that because they frankly don't know how to have direct experience here, and they're afraid to have it. You know what I mean by being afraid to have experience? If you asked a person on Earth, who they are as soul, do they know what it looks like? Are they aware of what it is? Are they aware they are not a physical body? You're going to find their faces are going to, for the most part, they're going to just kind of close off and go blank or turn away or go in another direction because something looms up in their nervous system and causes them fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of life after death, of a physical body, fear of what lies beyond this world when the body ceases to exist, all these kind of things. And everybody has it on Earth. I'm not criticizing, nor do I criticize any particular faith or religion, except that the way they're taught to people here They don't naturally provide a way for them to have the experience directly, the knowing, the certainty about what it is they believe in. What are other dimensions like beyond this life? Most people think, well, when I die, then God will show me. This isn't the way the universe works. We're required to become trustworthy co-creators with the source behind all life. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so.
Our purpose for existing as beings, and I'm not talking about the body, is to be conscious co-creators with the prime creator, the supreme being, whatever people want to call it, that exists from many dimensions beyond this physical world. All beings running physical human bodies on Earth, they originated from that source before the worlds of time and space were even made. What people don't understand as a living being running a body on Earth is how old they are as an Atma, as a soul. Atma is a spherical shaped energy. It's not made of nuclear material. It's not atomic in nature. It is energy, but not a type of energy that people on Earth understand. It's like the dark matter in space. It's packed between the stars, the suns, the moons, the planets, the different galaxies, the different dimensions, just packed full of this type of energy in which all of these other things float and spin on their axis like a galaxy or a planet or a sun. And people live on these little worlds running these little bodies, little DNA bodies. They were originally developed so that the Atma, which is spherical, soul, could run them and put higher faculties through them and have the body to be able to perceive what is in the particular dimension of matter they're in, like on planet Earth. That's one parallel dimension out of 144 in just the physical universe alone. It's a big place. There are scientists on Earth today that actually know quite well there are parallel dimensions. There are higher realities beyond the physical universe, made of matter but of a finer matter, like the astral, causal, mental, or etheric planes.
How high do the dimensions go?
Well, for instance, if you go up 4 dimensions from here, you have the physical dimension, 144 parallel dimensions within it. There's a number. It's not infinite. And then there's an astral with the same amount, causal, mental, etheric. These are planes made of a finer matter that are supported by this one energy field. This one living energy field is not a being like you and I. It's a living conscious energy. It's everything. Supports everything. We come into these lower worlds and begin to take on running bodies in order to learn from being experienced in these different levels how to come up with new ways of doing things, to create new ways of doing things, take it back up above the void known to the Buddhists, way above it, to where we came from, and deliver that. So in other words, the source behind all life doesn't know everything like people are taught on Earth. It knows everything that's going on in present time. But in order to change what is into something better, it has to have new ways of doing things. And that's where we come in. You and me and everyone else. Not just people on Earth, trillions of beings on countless world systems in many dimensions are all involved in this process collectively. They don't know it on Earth. On many other worlds, they do. Earth is destined to become a spacefaring planet, a race that's able to go among the stars and work with other beings much more evolved than we are, human and others, but not the way we are. The way we are on Earth, driven by subconscious terror, would cause people to go out in spaceships, like the new U.S. Space Force that just got put into law, and then take all that fear, the pilots, the captains, the governments behind them, take that terror out into the galaxy and start throwing that crap on everyone else. They're never going to be allowed to do that.
Well, wouldn't our equipment be quite ancient compared to what others have?
Yeah, I mean, you can have an reverse engineered anti-gravity ship, even a big battleship or whatever, but it's going to be very antiquated technology along those lines compared
That's the word I couldn't say. I couldn't get it out of my mouth.
You're not going to take the U.S. and Russia and China and go out there all fighting with each other on Earth and go struggle to get resources out there. See who gets there first. It'll never happen. because space is already occupied by more advanced races. We're never going to do that. The best we can do is to join a greater organization of worlds, be given the technology to play among the stars, and be respected if we're respectable. People on Earth need to wake up a great deal in order to fit the proper criteria to be given the resources and the knowledge and the understanding to go play among the stars with others. We got to be kind, good people to do that.
We certainly need help from others in order to be able to do that, because we have been dumbed down in so many ways and manipulated in so many ways.
Well, here's the thing about that. We're all responsible for that. The tendency on Earth is to blame someone else for your problem. This is never correct, because the people you would blame are people that are known publicly. Politicians, people that have a title, someone you know. But the real tyrants, the real problem, is not known to the public. It's behind the scenes, like a classified government that you don't know about. You don't get to vote for. You don't know who they are or what they're doing, all established under the National Security Act in this country by Truman, so that things could be classified, which means the Supreme Court judges are not in the loop of knowing what's classified. So we don't have a third balance of power in this country, really. If the Supreme Court judges knew all that was classified, then they could oversee it and see if it's good or not for people or the planet, but they're not in the loop. So that's one thing you need to look at, and you have to ask yourself, well, who or what motivated these people to lie to everyone else and classify things? They did it out of fear at the end of World War II, to get people to be calm enough and tranquil enough, confident enough in their own militaries and governments to rebuild a damaged world after World War II, to rebuild all the cities and do all that. If people knew there were good and bad ETs coming here, they'd never have had the balance or the peace to be baby boomers and raise babies and feel confident that, we're not worried about people from other worlds. The reason they classified it is because there was real threats out there, good and bad, that certain people in governments knew existed. They didn't want the people to know that, particularly after World War II. And it's understandable. But under those, the bylaws of what was written into, for this country, the National Security Act, was that they would reveal to the public the truth about the existence of life on other worlds when they felt that people would not riot in the streets. Now, this is 2020. Long past the time at which people wouldn't riot in the streets if they knew about extraterrestrials, because most of them figure they exist anyway at this point. So it's really more a fear of the elite that are running the planet that are afraid to disclose, not the people rioting. They're afraid of what the people do to them when they find out how much, right? So one of the things that's been being done, and it's subtle, because when these classified government people, you can call them Illuminati, you can call them whatever you want, get out of their bodies at night just like you, they are met with beings from other worlds in a state of consciousness higher than they are on Earth, where they're less terrified, and they're made to feel peaceful, get a good energy toward them, and then they can begin to make changes when they're out of their bodies, and then that changes who they are on Earth, and then collectively they can make change here, or at least ask for beings from other worlds to come here and help us out, because they know how to solve all these problems. Mm-hmm. These, getting rid of pollutants in the atmosphere, radioactive elements from nuclear bomb tests, getting rid of nuclear materials, getting rid of pollution in the water and air. That's easy for them. They've done it on whole world systems. It's not it's a piece of cake. But for people on Earth, it's impossible, because they don't have the understanding of the technology to do it. They've been too busy putting their energies into weapons, nuclear bombs and hydrogen bombs and ray beams and whatever. And they don't even have a way to neutralize an imbalanced isotope, man-made, they made to make bomb-grade ore. For hydrogen bombs and atomic bombs and all that, they never developed the science to put them back into being stable isotopes so they aren't radioactively deadly. That makes no sense. Which means the people did it had no sense. They were operating in fear, and they justified their abuses to life, that it's okay to do it because you got to fight the bad guys overseas, so it's okay. It isn't. It's never okay to lie. to cheat, to weasel, to steal. It's never okay, because that puts out energy in space-time. According to one of the primary laws of physics, every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. You cannot avoid this. Anybody on earth that's deceiving and lying to anybody else is personally going to pay the price for what they're doing. Sooner or later, that energy they're putting out, which is negative, has to come back to them to teach. So if they want to avoid self-destruction, if they want to do a disclosure without being harmed, and come out of this with everyone in a beneficial way, they're going to have to get help from beings from other worlds who weren't willing to do that before recently.
But now they are, correct?
Now they are. But still, if you're not a tyrant, you want to work with the mass of people on a planet to get them awake enough, free of fear enough, which is like a lead anchor, so they can choose. Governments, classified people, and all the masses can choose to have this help come here. They're not tyrants. Not going to come over. Nobody wants to run the governments on this planet, who are a kind, huge organization of worlds out there. Nobody wants to do that. Only tyrants would want to do that. And they're kept in check, so they can't come here and take over. The negative effects some of the tyrant extraterrestrials have left on the populace of this planet is like a subconscious terrorizing fear programs that are misdirecting their actions every day. They're being run on automatic in negative ways. There are no bad ETs here anymore on underground bases. No grays are abducting anybody anymore. People in the UFO and extraterrestrial communities, the disclosure communities, today don't understand this. To this day, they don't know. It's more than 25 years ago when all that was stopped. They still don't know. So you have people rehashing a lot of stuff in present time that happened decades ago and was stopped. There's no new cases, Gail, of little grays abducting people anywhere on this planet.
I heard somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, that the government itself does that sort of thing and implies that it's extraterrestrials when it's not.
Right, but that's just conjecture, and that's just information you've heard, and you have no understanding personally whether it's true or not, do you?
No, that's what I said. I don't know if it's true or not. That's why I said that.
But when you dwell on such things, it misdirects you. It keeps people focused on one thing, a very negative emotion and imaginative charge, a program, doubt.
I just brought it up because I know that it's an issue for people. I don't think about it or dwell on it.
No, I'm not saying you personally, but doubt. Behind doubt is fear. Behind fear is terror. An artificially implanted terror. Not to wake up, not to remember who you are. People don't realize that this was done to them before they were compelled to be born here. They think God sent them here. That's nonsense. Why would anybody volunteer on purpose as a living spherical being, a soul, to come to Earth and get in a body and say, yeah, I want to be stupider than a brick, remember nothing, grow up with a little baby body and know nothing as an adult and die? Why would anybody volunteer to do that, to have their memory wiped each lifetime? They're not thinking clearly. That's not normal. It's not natural. It certainly isn't, and everybody on this planet knows there's something wrong with what they don't know anymore. Every single person understands they used to be better and know more than they do now, somewhere. And they're afraid to find that out. Subconscious programs involve death and torture and some tyrant being lording itself over you, saying, if you wake up and remember who you are, we will eat you alive or kill you again. That's the thing people are afraid of looking at, because it's not pleasant. When they do get the courage up to actually look at it safely, protected with the right beings around them, then that terror becomes nothing more than a memory of the past. And all their higher faculties of being as an Atma begin to resurface. They begin to recover who they are. First, by understanding how the multiverse works, how these beings in other dimensions and other realities function differently than people do on Earth. It's the first thing people need to begin to remember.
Well, so how did they get here in the first place then? That's what most people want to know. Why am I here? How did I get here? Some people will say, well, you decided to come back here to learn some lessons. You picked your parents. You decided what things you were going to experience.
And all that does is keep people stupid the rest of their lives. Because it's something they can hang their hat on as a belief without knowing if it's true or not. And then they don't have to think about the fear that keeps cropping up. They keep trying to want to know or remember who they are, but then this fear affects their nervous system. And they're afraid to look at something that was in the past a long time ago that compelled them to reincarnate here with no memory. There's no God up there in heaven, not any real source that directs people to reincarnate on this planet with no memory, lifetime after lifetime, or this planet or any other world.
So you are saying that they do come here by choice then, without memory. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. You got to listen. I've never said that. They're coming here without consent or free will.
Okay. How is that?
Well, for that, I'm not going to tell you answers. Because if
These are questions that people ask me.
I know, but if I give them answers, it's just data, and they still don't have the experience of knowing what it is or if it's true. They don't have the knowing. They remain in doubt and fear. If I give them answers to things, it's still not their experience. My work is about helping people have and awaken their own experience, about knowing for themselves. That eliminates doubt, fear, speculation, theory, anger, revenge. All the negative emotions are artificially created. Every use of the imagination in a negative way is artificially motivated subconsciously in people. So they will take the energy that they don't remember what they are, and focus it in a negative way towards the present and the future. When they do that, they're without knowing it, they're connecting into those negative control things. They're actually adding their energy to it so they can be suppressed because they're misusing the correct use of the imagination and emotion. A normal Atma, without these influences, subconscious influences, doesn't have negative emotions, doesn't have a subconscious mind at all. We're not meant to have a subconscious anything. Because if there's something subconscious, you don't know what's in it. Other beings can put stuff in it, manipulate you there. So it's subconscious.
Well, I've heard people defend that when I've said stuff like that before, from what I've learned from you. And boy, they defend that subconscious as being a necessary thing.
Oh, well, what other choice do they have if they're in terror and fear? What psychologist or psychiatrist do you know of with a doctor's degree can heal anybody? They give you emotionally suppressive drugs that are addictive, but they don't cure the insane. Very rarely, if they get lucky sometimes. And it's because they themselves are in terror of knowing who they are. They think the mind, they try to approach this from thinking the subconscious and the brain here is the mind. It isn't. Or the subconscious is somewhere here. It's not. Mm-hmm. The mind isn't even on this planet that people use. It's on a body they're running 4 dimensions up from here, called the mental plane. All emotion comes from the astral plane, from the life you're running a body there. Do people remember any of this on Earth? They should know it, but do they?
No, they don't. We're not taught. We're not schooled in any of this.
No. So how can I or anyone else blame people on Earth for being so dumbed down and misdirected out of fear? They don't even know it was done to them. How can you blame them? I don't blame Trump or Pelosi or politicians or royal family, the Queen of England, for any of this, because what was done to them was done to everybody else. If they could help it, they would change. They're busy making decisions to govern people that are incorrect every day. And when they find out it's incorrect, they spend lots of money and lots of people to try to fix it. And they're always doing this round the clock because they're not seeing the big picture. If you want to fix Earth, you've got to get outside of Earth and look at it from above it with beings who look at it objectively. People on Earth are not objective. They're not even subjective properly. They're misdirected subconsciously. Now, this is clear to anybody when they start to become more enlightened and wake up. What was done to people on earth was not done to them this lifetime. It's bigger than that. It's deeper than that. The history of this solar system and this planet and this galaxy is far deeper and more ancient than people understand. There were human beings in this form or higher forms living out in galaxies billions of years before Earth could even sustain life. We didn't evolve from monkeys, from Neanderthals, or they're extinct humanoid species. They didn't originate on Earth either. They didn't come from monkeys either. That's theory, speculation. It's just taught to people out of belief. There's no proof of any of it that exists anywhere on this planet. And the scientists who promote this know that it's just theory. You can't prove it. You're never going to find a missing link about how we came into existence on Earth anyway. Because human beings didn't originate on this planet originally anyway.
People have a hard time with that concept.
Well, that's because it's not a concept. It's not a mental idea. If people go back and review who...
I don't know how to say it correctly then.
Okay.
I'm just telling you what I know that people say to me.
It's okay if you use concept, but you're using terms you learned on Earth in a life where you don't know what you're doing. And you have the ability to know what you're doing, just like everybody else who would listen to this radio show. They don't know that yet, but as you know, it can be recovered. As you're beginning to find out, you can recover anything. If you can take fear out of the equation, you can reacquire all you once knew. Until fear, or putting your imagination and feeling into fear of the present and the future, is dropped like the red brick that it is, until you do that, until anybody does that, they will not find any truth or any way out of here. Because they'll continue to contribute their energy to negative things, unknowingly. And it'll ground them right to this earth. Imagination is something, the being running a body, usually floating above the head somewhere. People don't even know this. What they call soul, they think is packed in their body somewhere. They look in the mirror and they think this is who they are. Yeah. And then they think they've got this soul somewhere that's going to somehow survive, but it's like something they maybe could reach in a back pocket and look at or something, as if this is what's looking at that. It's really this, which is looking at this, running this. This spherical nature of being is what's made in the image of the source, not this. They got that all wrong on Earth. Human bodies got nothing to do whatsoever with what they call soul. It isn't material. The Atma or soul energy, Atma is just what people call soul in other worlds, but they know what it is. It's not a mystery to them. For them to grow up on a world, learning in their school systems and in their benevolent governments, what they are that isn't physical, this is done from birth onwards. They grow up being confident about this stuff. They're telepathic. They have photographic memories. They use 100% of 100% of the brain they have. Why do people on Earth only use 6 to 10% of 100% of a completely developed brain? Does that make any sense to anyone? How can it? It means that certain genomes on the DNA of chromosome twin strand in human beings on Earth have been shut off. In science on Earth used to call this junk DNA because they just figured it's genomes on the DNA that are not being used. Now they know it's not junk, it's just turned off, and they're trying to figure out the science of turning them on to cure disease or stop you from getting cancer or to live 1,000 years instead of 80. That's all in the genomes. Then you have to ask yourself, well, who or what shut down those? Because when that's done, it's passed on genetically from parent to parent to parent. How far back in the past does that go for human beings on Earth? Did you always have twin-stranded DNA as a human being, or did you once have 4-stranded DNA? And if you did, where'd it go? See, this is the kind of stuff that people on Earth, when they're free of fear, have the wisdom and capability to remember. Not the physical brain that grew up in this one lifetime. It's got none of that in it. not even past lives. The spherical being, the real being running this body, this machine that runs at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit, eats food and excretes, and that's a machine. It's a type of, the human body is a genetic entity. It's designed to run at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's designed for the Atma, the real being, to run it. But originally it was designed so the being could run higher faculties of being through it when it's properly balanced and not messed with. So you could be running a body on Earth, going to the beach, making love or having children, and yet know you're not that body, and know who you are, and those other beings would know who they are. So you see, beings like that don't indiscriminately make babies. Planets that are normal out there are not overpopulated. People on Earth don't even know who they are. They don't know how they got here. They're hormonally driven to have sex to procreate the species, but the species isn't who they are. That's how dumbed down Earth is. And I don't see any evidence that the massive people on this planet, classified or otherwise, have free will to the degree enough anymore where they can change the negative direction they're heading this world. They've lost that. They don't have free will like they think they do.
What about the concept that people talk about, you create your own reality? What do you say to that?
You do. We've been talking about it all along.
So
wait a minute, Gail. If you grow up imagining, because that's how you're taught, and your whole people and your family and parents are all in the same trap, as an Atma doesn't remember what it is anymore. It's like the blind leading the blind. You go to school, you learn to become a theoretical physicist, a PhD in theoretical this, or theoretical archaeologist, trying to study what happened in the past, and they have no clue how any of it got there. They carbon date bones to see how old they are. They found human beings 18 feet or taller, fully developed in skeletons that are human, higher developed than this, millions of years old, and that's classified immediately, so it doesn't come out into the public. As soon as anybody finds one of those, there are teams that come in all over the world, agreed by 35 countries, and they take that out of public awareness. The highest level of classification has to do with anything to do with extraterrestrial life, especially after World War II.
Well, kind of one of the things that confuses me is we don't have free will, correct? So
you do. Well, let's put it this way. As the Atma, that it's aware of who it is, it does.
Okay.
As a being or an Atma that doesn't remember it is and thinks it's a body, it does not. How can anyone on Earth say they have free will to choose correctly if they don't remember what they are that isn't physical, what it's shaped like, what it does, how to move it around the multidimensional universe, separate from bodies? If they can't remember any of that.
Well, on the same token, how can they create their own reality without that knowledge?
Can't. You can miscreate it.
That's what I'm getting at.
If you grow up on Earth, what do you grow up doing?
I'm getting at.
You grow up on Earth fearing nuclear war. You grow up on Earth fearing North Korea. Oh, no, now it's Iran. Wait a minute. Nobody even talks about North Korea anymore, if you haven't noticed. Now it's all Iran. That keeps people's attention focused on bad things overseas, so the people running things can stay hidden behind the scenes. They keep people focused over there in some negative way, away from where they should be looking in their own backyard. It's an old tyrant game, and it didn't get developed on this planet. It didn't evolve with royal family bloodlines here. In fact, royal family bloodlines didn't evolve. The idea of it didn't evolve on Earth in the first place. It was imported here from out there beyond Earth, from tyrant world systems that had some part to play here, along with benevolent races in its ancient history. Earth has had beings like our form being able to live here for more than almost 65 million years, since the dinosaurs were made extinct. And they have been here all that time. Where's that history? You're not going to find it out in any school system on this planet, because they don't know it. Can't teach what you don't know. How are you going to learn that you've lived more lives in other worlds before this one lifetime on Earth if you can't remember any of it, when you're afraid to remember any of it? What do you got left after that? Religion. What do you have? told that believe in something till you die, and then God will tell you later. There's no evidence on this in this earth in its entire history that's known to people where anybody's gone to heaven and come back to prove it, to tell everybody they're right in the way they believe. It's just faith. All they have is something they're taught from outside by somebody else. They look as a authority figure what to believe in.
We have that's been a problem for a lot of people, is believing in different authority figures that have added to the misdirections.
The thing is, that's why I don't throw stones at anyone on earth.
Mm-hmm.
They're busy throwing stones at me out of jealousy or fear or whatever. But I don't do that to any of them because I understand the fear that's driving them to make these mistakes in judgment.
Mm-hmm.
To make up stuff and throw it around because they're afraid of losing their followers or money or income or whatever it might be.
Or they really don't have the answers.
No, they don't. And many people who are trying to get truth out to people on this planet, whether they're at UFO conferences or writing books, if you'll notice and you listen to them, most of them will talk about something good and then they'll start putting fear into it. Fear of the reptilians, fear of this, fear of the Illuminati, fear of that, fear of this, fear of royal families, fear. And they promote the very thing that keeps them stuck here without realizing that they're misdirecting everybody else. And if there's a power, a hidden government controlling all, they're happy these people are doing this. Because those people in general, all those disclosure, they will not work together. UFO people, you can't get them to work together. They're all doing their own thing. And their own things don't line up the same way. Everybody has, it's like religion. They all have different beliefs. And so they're promoting the same doubt and fear without realizing that's what they're doing. If you grew up on this planet and you're taught to imagine wonderful things for yourself, it goes back to your question, how do we create our own reality? If you imagine wonderful things for yourself in your future, and at the same time, you imagine fear of Armageddon, fear of the present, fear of the future, it creates two opposing forces, one good, one negative, positive and negative, maya or illusion, and they ground each other into the earth. They neutralize each other. So how can people make any progress to waking up and being enlightened when they're short-circuiting themselves through their own misuse of the imagination and emotion? Can't blame people for it because they've been taught this growing up. The only thing that's in their brain and physical body they grew up with as an adult is that same stuff. And their peers, all the people around them, are surrounded and putting out this same stuff every day. On the news, CNN, governments, everyone. How can you consider that a group of people like that could ever solve anything? That's what I mean. They don't have real free will, because real free will involves knowing what you are that isn't the physical body, what to go do with it, and how to co-create with that source from whence we all come. That's our purpose for existing. To be trustworthy, conscious co-creators with what people call the supreme being. We're not supposed to worship it. Tyrants want worship.
Yeah.
Because if you thou shalt worship me, or I shall smite thee and send you to hell.
Yeah, we got caught up in a lot of that worship stuff.
Doesn't that kind of sound like Caesar in Rome?
Mm-hmm.
Or the Egyptian pharaohs, or the Mayans or Yucatan priestcraft? Sounds like that, doesn't it? Exactly the same. So if people want to put real life into their religious beliefs so they start to have real experience and recover, they learn how to drop fear, which is an artificial emotion, a misdirecting subconscious emotion.
It doesn't feel very artificial when you're having it, though.
If they want to drop it, there's only one way they can do that. There is no savior or anybody out there is going to come here and wave a magic wand on everybody and do it all for them, so they remain immature beings who will go off into heaven and screw it all up with all their fear they took with them when they died. That isn't the way the other universes and higher dimensions work. It's not practical. Beings have to become mature, experienced entities as an Atma, not a body, in order to be allowed to play in the multiverse freely. It's common sense. So I'm simply sharing with you one of the first things that I endeavor to do with fellow human beings, for my purpose for being on this planet, is to help them understand why they need to drop fear altogether, period, in every form. Because until they do that, they will be creating, by one of the primary laws of physics, their own demise, their own trap. This omnipresent living field of energy we know as the hue, the first word of the word human, human, woman. That English word, human, didn't get created on this earth, neither did language. It's older than this planet. Human, it's just a sound or even an inner imagination. You can close your eyes and hear the hue. Hue, you can hear it. And if you learn how to, you can hear what people call music of the spheres. You can hear these sounds, these higher pure energy sounds coming off different realities. And when you can tune into them, you can travel to them. This omnipresent field of energy, what people call divine spirit, is not something that answers everybody's prayers. It is a co-creator, a living energy force that we're meant to imagine properly in it, and it will fill the power and create what we imagine. It is the one power. We are individual beings made of the same energy, like a drop of this energy in a mighty ocean of it. We are not the whole ocean, but we're made of the same thing and can communicate telepathically and connect to it. When we do that through the imagination, it will create what we imagine, good or bad. That's the problem. People on Earth should not be using their imagination at any time to imagine negative things, because they'll just create them, and the good too. And to the degree or less of a degree that you do that properly, you can have kind of a more of a positive life with some negative, or all negative and no positive, or an equal share of both, and then you're just stuck here. And any degree where negativity is involved, you're stuck here, because it's a grounding force. The negative force is a materialistic force. Positive and negative energies in the four lower dimensions, what people call higher heavens, they have negativity there. In the next heaven, the astral plane, people kill animals, slaughter things, have police forces, and pay taxes. This heaven they think they're going to, and there's ones higher than that. To get away from that, you have to go what the Buddhist monks call the void. You have to go across that void into the upper realities. And there are many of them, but they don't work the same as down here. There's no negative and positive. There's no cause and effect. They're pure positive. That's different. The energy that makes us up, you, the one hovering above your head right now, is pure positive. It is not nuclear in nature. It's not atoms and electrons and protons at all. It's energy, but it's the energy behind energy. In the CERN Super Collider and the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, Switzerland, when they crash these particles together at near the speed of light, they've determined, could actually prove scientifically, that there's an energy operating behind matter that doesn't really obey the laws of physics as they know it. It is an energy that is not nuclear, so they don't know what to do with it. It's behind all matter. It's the dark matter in space, so they call it the God particle. Probably appropriate, but it's just energy. If you want to travel across this universe, go to other galaxies and the billions of worlds in this universe, and go to many parallel dimensions and never different levels, you have to know how to work with this primal energy of the universe. What people call zero-point energy or toroidal energy is just the energy behind matter. And you have to work with that if you want to supersede the laws of physics, such as the limits of the speed of light. Otherwise, you're stuck with physical light, as human eyes detected, a very small band, and you can't go faster, do anything outside of that. Especially if you believe you can't, then you're creating being stuck. Beings that know how to work with energy that's behind matter, what people call on Earth Holy Spirit, is really not what they think it is. It is a living, omnipresent force, true. But it comes from the source of all life, and it is a power that supports everything. It's a living energy, and we have to work with it co-creatively if we want to be free. Because there isn't any other way you can do it. You've got to become awake and aware of what it is we're dealing with. For people to begin to realize that they are multidimensional in nature, capable. This part of us, the sphere, has the capability and the faculties on many levels to understand the multidimensional creation. What our purpose is, even know the source itself, the Supreme Being. We're meant to be trustworthy co-creators with it. Not co-worshippers of it or slaves under some tyrant Supreme Being. That's not the real nature of what it really is. Tyrants between it and us in the lower planes set themselves up as gods to be worshipped or else. So the problem to solve this, you can't just solve this by solving problems on Earth. We have to solve the problem of how the lower dimensions are created and run by changing the way they're run. We collectively, as part of the Supreme Source, or Prime Creator is a better term for it, or the Source itself, we are responsible for the failed experiment we call evil, good and bad. If we want to change it, bitching about it won't change it one iota. When we wake up, we're capable of collectively working with massive numbers of beings to actually change it for the first time. And we are all, each of us, responsible for that. Can't blame it on the saint, and you can't blame it on the Supreme Being and say it's all them doing it. We aren't. We're just innocent, naive little children. No, we are a drop from the very source behind all life itself. This is a fact. It's not theory. When a person begins to recover the awareness of what they are that's in the real image of the source, spherical, you ever wonder why planets and moons and stars are round?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Because they're made in the image of their creator. And not this. These are made to stand upright and be grounded to gravity, be able to walk around and have experience on a little place like Earth in one parallel dimension in the physical universe. It's so the being can use the sensory input from this material being to have an interaction with an environment, because this is not nuclear, it's not matter. It's not a body. It has to have a form through which it can work to detect and experience physical matter, from which it's supposed to learn how to come up with new ways to do things, go back to the source, and help change the way things are. Problem is, being stuck in the lower dimensions, not just on Earth, have not been returning to that source like they were meant to. They're trapped in their own imaginative creation. And they've got the whole omnipresent living spirit supporting them in that trap. Because that's the way it was set up originally. You might say the experiment of evil worked too well.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
It was not meant to trap Atmas, but that's how it ended up. Because nobody knew what the outcome would be. It was thought that it would be a good way to cattle prod beings to do the right thing. It didn't work out that way. If you're going to retire the experiment of evil, you have to have something else brought into creation that will replace it, so you don't upset the balance in the lower dimensions. That's what's underway now for the first time since hundreds of billions of years.
Yeah, we're ready for that positive change.
You know, people on Earth just aren't aware of it yet. It doesn't mean they're not capable of becoming aware of it, but they will not become aware of it until they let go of fear. And they need a lot of help to know how to do that, because they don't remember how to do it.
Yeah, that is a tough one. That's a real tough one.
That's why I endeavor to take people on journeys, even during radio shows, out of their body. At first, they may not have a real good, solid feeling for what's going on with it. But I point out to them, and as I write to you and others, that when you put your body to sleep at night, it's a complex process. The body doesn't put itself to sleep. The Atma running it puts it to sleep. The body needs to have time to heal and recharge, the physical entity. It has, it needs food, it excretes, and it needs to recharge, and all that's just physical law. But the being running it is not part of physical law. It's not part of the law of physics. It's not nuclear. It is an energy behind and supporting nuclear. It is energy, and it's everywhere. It's packed thick between planets and stars and galaxies, between dimensions, all the way up into the void and beyond it that people don't remember yet on this planet.
That's what they call dark energy, right?
Correct, but it isn't dark.
It isn't dark. That's just because of our eyes, right?
Right. I mean, even scientists on Earth now, it's not dark. It just means that when you look at it, physical eyes can't detect that higher frequency. So it sees it as kind of a black background, void of light. It isn't. When you're out of the body as the sphere, you can see it clearly. It's a white light with a golden essence, and it's everywhere. And you can see all the stars in the galaxy clearly floating in it, and it's everywhere around them. That is what they call 0-point energy, the energy of the universe, or toroidal energy on Earth. There are other terms for it in other planets and other places, but when they're working with reverse engineering an anti-gravitic craft to create its own electromagnetic field around it that can, warp time and space or collapse space and time in front of it, so it's your ship's basically sucked into a vacuum forward. Things like that are not hard to understand from beings who have done this for hundreds of millions of years or more. You have to work with the energy that is in the void of space in order to get faster than the speed of light or get around, because that non-material energy is required. When they're working with these reverse engineered craft, they understand they're working with what they call 0-point energy. But they don't really understand how it works, because the technology that they've reverse engineered, they did not create. It was either given to them or they found it in down craft. And since they don't understand it, they're going to be very limited in going very deep or very far with it. If you get a pilot on a ship, little triangular craft or something, or a disc-shaped ship, and the pilot in the U.S. Air Force, let's say, or the new Space Force that was recently created by Donald Trump, is about exploring space. They're going to take personnel from the Air Force, different uniforms, and put them in the Space Force, and they're going to be more highly classified than the Air Force people. They're going to add personnel to this, okay? That's what they're doing now. It's official. You might even call that part of disclosure. U.S. Space Force, that's a military entity. Weapons and stuff like that out in space. They're going to find they're going to have a real problem trying to explore beyond this solar system, because this solar system and planet is quarantined by races far more advanced than us, kind races. They don't want to run the government of this planet. But they aren't going to allow us to go out in space with all of our fear-driven subconscious drives and make endless mistakes, firing and shooting at the first strange thing they see. People out there are not stupid. They already know this. So when I say to people, we don't have a ghost of a chance in hell of being a spacefaring planet that explores the stars until we become normal. What do I mean?
Is that why other races don't show themselves or come, visit us where we can all see them? Because of the, average human might come out.
The only reason, no. Lots of people have experiences with them. But if they talk about it, who's going to listen? The majority.
They'll think you're crazy.
The government classified it, so they're not going to help you.
Yeah.
They'll just, if you're too dangerous, they'll just put out a whole wave of PR to discredit you.
Yeah.
Or keep it classified, because it's the highest classified thing there is. Anything to do with extraterrestrial life is more highly classified than the hydrogen bomb, by far.
Is that getting any better?
Of course.
Is that, are we getting closer to disclosure about that, or is that still?
Well, here's the thing. For you to know more, you need to consciously experience more. Someone telling you it isn't going to help you very much, because you don't know. You might get some data. I might tell you something, but what good's it going to do you unless you know it for yourself? I can know things with absolute certainty about a lot of stuff beyond this earth. Trying to communicate that to other people without providing them with a way they can have their own experience isn't very helpful. Because they're just left in doubt, aren't they? Doubt is negative, grounds them to the earth and to bodies. It's negative. So what is purely positive? What is it that we can work with that will free a person from being caught in the illusion of Maya, or positive and negative, good and bad, the bad guys versus the good guys, and all that kind of concept? Is what traps a being into the misdirected belief they're a physical body. It's a completely misdirected belief based on a subconscious terror to keep them there. When you become aware of this, as I've said right here on this show, something happens in the Atma itself, the spherical being running the body. It begins to remember. Why? Because originally all Atmas, all souls, understood that they have control over all forms of negativity. Beings that are negative in or out of bodies, demons, souls, discarnate people, misuse of extraterrestrial technology on many levels. They all have this ability as the Atma, because the Atma is not made of matter. It's not ray guns and bombs and hydrogen nuclear weapons. You can set off a hydrogen bomb under your butt and it'll blow your body to hell, but you'll just be floating there as a sphere. It won't hurt you. There's nothing you can do to harm that. So tyrants figured out a way to surround this being they can't change or alter with an artificial field through which you look at the universe like a hologram that terrorizes you every time you try to remember who you are and how the multiverse works and what you're supposed to be doing and playing in it. How do you do that? If you can't use your higher faculties through a physical form, how can you get your physical form to let go, to go into a trance state called sleep, like you do every night, and then you, the being, go out and play freely in the universe and know things again. And then you bring that knowing back to a body and brain that never had it growing up, any of it. You got to bring that to the body. It's not already here. So we work with the hue because it is a way of connecting telepathically into this primordial, omnipresent, living force people call divine spirit. It's not very constructive to pray into it, to want things. It's very constructive to imagine in it, to get it to create what you want with you. The best form of imagination is to use it in a way that will create new ways of doing things that are only of an uplifting benefit to all life. Then it really likes to respond to us. But it will provide us with the energy to create both good and bad things in our life. And everybody knows it. They just don't dare admit it. Because then they would have to become responsible as living beings with the source. And they're terrified of doing that.
What terrifies them about that, you think?
Well, you already know the answers. Why don't you answer it from what you've learned in your association?
Well, the subconscious programming, I guess, was what we're getting.
And how did that get put on people? Did it happen to them in this life? Or was it done before they were compelled to incarnate here with no memory?
We were put here with that already in place.
Not by the Supreme Being, or not the real one.
No.
By tyrants pretending to be that demanded worship. Blind worship, or you go to hell.
Yeah.
That's a money issue for the churches on this planet. It's about money. They don't want to lose their status or their funds. It's understandable. But it also means that being misdirected in that way, they will purposefully hide truth about the multiverse in, crypts underneath the ground or in storage facilities. They won't tell the people what they themselves know, as little as they know. And all religions have a certain amount of things they keep secret from their followers. And that's, they think, is for the good of all life, but it isn't. It just keeps things stuck. So working with the hue brings real vibrant life. It's a way, I would say this, when people cross the hue, or it crosses their path, they've developed enough courage to reach out and connect with people like me or the beings I know off-world, master teachers and all, despite what was done to them, which tyrants thought you could never, ever wake up from it. And yet you found me, Gail. All I did was put out YouTube videos and go to conferences and do things and get it out on the internet. So when people are awake enough from what's being trained when they're out of their bodies at night, they have the courage to step forward despite these programs which are terrorizing them. They do it anyway. That's a fact that they actually have power over any form of negativity, but they have been tortured and terrorized to not believe it, to doubt it, basically.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out how it happened in this life. You won't find it here. It didn't happen to people during their lifetime here. It was done to them before they were compelled to come here, seek out a body and get in it and be unaware. Forget everything. So you see, we have to have the use of higher faculties in order to make better decisions to get free. And that's going to be true of all the populace of this planet. They're going to need massive help from beings from elsewhere in order to help them raise up in vibration enough energetically to have the courage to step beyond their fear. Once they do that, they get the help, the assistance, the professional training of beings who know how to help people do that, and they begin to let go of their hypnotic fixation on focusing on negative things.
It is hypnotic.
When I say the trance state called sleep, I'm going to turn on the lights, getting a little dark here. Not much, 258, but, a little more light will help. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's much brighter. It's still okay here, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just working off these are drawn, these shades, but it's daylight. It's just that you don't get enough light for this little camera.
Okay.
When the sun starts to set over that way, it gets not enough light coming through.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably, I try to, as you know, go take people on a little journey.
Yeah.
These shows. When they work with the hue, the first half of the word human, hidden in plain sight, just hidden right there, and people have no idea what it is or what to do with it because they've been terrorized to forget it long ago. When something crosses their path, it doesn't have to be me, that helps them recover their understanding of this omnipresent living force and how to connect with it, they begin to make progress rapidly. Because one of the things most people have a hard time dealing with is just how old they are. It scares people to think they've lived billions of lives since their beginning and don't know anything, and they're on Earth today. They wonder, how the heck did I get to be on Earth? What am I doing on Earth? How come I can't remember anything? That's how you get born here. And you grow up with the same puzzle. What's my purpose? Why am I on Earth? Where am I going? What happens when you die? And all this stuff that people should never even have to question. They should know it. Enlightenment has a great deal to do with knowing what you are that isn't a body and how to run it around the multiverse and experience things. That's really what it is. What people call self-realization has to do with the awareness of what you are as a spherical being of energy, the Atma. It has different layers and levels of self-effulgent teardrop shape. They're teardrop shapes, but they're really like individual higher faculties of creation, co-creative capability with the source itself on a smaller scale. And it's made of energy. It's indestructible. It's not made of matter. Physical bodies are, and they come and go. A normal being living a life on other worlds, even in the physical universe, understands they're not their body. They grow up with this understanding. They're taught differently in schools there than here. So they don't have the problems we have here. Having 100% use of the brain instead of 6 to 10 like we're told we use here, being telepathic, having a photographic memory, living 1,000 years, is normal for most spacefaring races out there. Very different from Earth. And yet is more as advanced as that is compared to a person on Earth. To them, that's just normal. Self-realization is understanding what this is and what to do with it, how it works. God realization is understanding what your purpose is as a co-creator with that source. That's what those two things are. The more you go into what this thing is called God realization, the deeper and more infinite it becomes before you and more wondrous. It's all for the potential to create new ways of doing things. The supreme source behind all life, if you want to call it that, is counting on us, ultimately, to solve this problem of the lower dimensions of time and space. Evil as an experiment, why it doesn't work. We're responsible for bringing that solution back to the source. That's our reason for existing. At some point, and which is what's underway now, the lower dimensions of time and space where Maya or illusion reigns and where positive and negative things occur, comes from a dual current, positive and negative, woven around each other, powered by a third energy. And it comes out of the void above the etheric plane into the lower world systems, split like that. It's meant to be used in a whole fashion for the good of all life. People are using it split in their consciousness, good and bad, right and wrong. And so that's why they call it Maya or illusion. Conquering that, mastering illusion, has to do with understanding how to use the creative imagination properly. It is not something that's made up in the brain. The brain in a human skull can't imagine anything. It's not got a camera in it, a motion picture, and a movie projector screen on which you see stuff. You close your eyes and imagine being on a beach or up in the mountains, on another planet. The brain doesn't see that. The eyes are off. Light doesn't come into the eyes. It's not working. The being running the body is actually seeing that. Daydreaming is the being seeing what you're daydreaming, not your brain. If your eyes are open looking at a parking lot, you're in a classroom and you're bored with what the teacher's doing or you're just not interested, you daydream. Your eyes can see what's in the parking lot, but you're seeing yourself out skiing or doing something else somewhere off. That part of the imagination is what the being is actually doing while the body's sitting there looking at the parking lot. People don't realize this on Earth because they're not taught it. How are they going to exercise higher faculties if they don't remember what they are? Or how to be comfortable with using them? When we work with the hue, it makes a connection in this omnipresent field of force, directly to the source from whence you came. No intermediaries, except beings that also work with it co-creatively. They will help. And then what we're really doing is telling that source we're ready to come back to where we originated from, consciously becoming trustworthy to co-create with it. And that process begins. Once the hue crosses your path, it's irreversible. Everything that you were ever made to be unconscious about begins to be unraveled. Carefully, gradually, because that knot of fear and terror is very deep, and it goes back way before this one lifetime. It has to be undone carefully. So your life on Earth can live out a balanced life here while you're waking up, or it would throw people into chaos. You would not want the brain you have grown up with here suddenly knowing 4 billion lifetimes you lived in the multiverse. Fry your nervous
Might be a little overwhelming.
just a bit. The Atma can handle it, but you need to be aware of what that is and wake that up before you can take that all on again. And then put through a physical brain and body as much as it can handle. You enlighten the brain and body you have to be a channel for this co-creative energy. It benefits you, but on the way through you, it benefits everyone else. So when I go into this on a radio show or in a private session, you've had a number of those. I send out the hue in different levels, different higher pitches or different tones, in order to get not just your physical body into the trance state called sleep, but your astral, causal, mental, and etheric bodies, lives you're living in other planes people don't remember. And yet the one Atma they are is running them without awareness. It's on automatic. Are we okay with time?
I can't really see the clock. Well, it's well, here it's a little after 4. But before we start the journey, my dog's pushed open the door and I need to shut it.
Go ahead, and I'll be right back to you.
Okay. That's my little precious baby. My little babies. Yes, okay. And then you. These guys pushed open the door. Mm-mm. And I love you too. Yes. And I love you too.
All right, so in a nutshell, the first half of the word human, man, woman, child, has to do with an original sound frequency or first sound, first word behind all creation that has existed since this all began. It's a fail-safe. When we begin to connect back into that, we begin to make our journey back while we're living out our life to this source energy. It is the way it works. It doesn't care what religion or what faith you're in. If you have a fervent belief in something, working with it will bring real truth and experience into that faith. It will go beyond faith into direct knowing perception. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. It doesn't matter what religion you're in or if you're in a religion.
Because whatever isn't real or that's holding a person back from knowing what they are as a co-creator with the source, you can consider that evil. Anything that prevents a person from recovering who they are is evil. Any religion or any practice or any minister or any government that does that is practicing negativity, which you can consider evil. They may not be doing it intentionally, but as long as they're being suppressive of the truth in any way, they're practicing the negative arts without realizing it. So this, what I call the new ray in the hue, is something that was brought into creation recently in the upper worlds, beyond the void known to most Buddhist monks. How do I put it? Without people need to have their own direct experience of this, which is what I endeavor to do by taking people on journeys to have experience with this for themselves. When you put your body to sleep at night, what I call the trance state is not hypnotic. It's not hypnosis. You're actually causing the pineal gland in the center of the brain to secrete serotonin, makes melatonin, and it puts the body in automatic. You, the being, actually instructs in a complex process to get the body to close its eyes, close down the sight and sound and hearing. And then it goes into a trance state called sleep, which just means automatic. That means it's running, heart working, blood pumping, breathing while you're out every night. People go out of their body every night, but they have no consciousness of this, or very little, most people, because they're not trained to have any comfort or understanding with any of this growing up on this planet. It's a very backward world. It's barely evolved, let's put it that way. The science that has been applied on this earth that came about after World War II, we did not invent or earn ourselves. It was given to us or illegally put on this planet, especially negative things like bomb technology. So you have to be aware that these technologies are not new, they're ancient. Some beings provided Hitler's Nazi scientists with nuclear bomb technologies, the beginning of it, anti-gravitic stuff, illegally, because they wanted him to destroy 3/4 of the population of this planet. That's what he was on the way to do before he was defeated. So we got this technology in a way that we didn't earn it. Microchip technology, microscopic computer pathways, silicone-based wafers, fiber optics, carbon fiber technology. This was all extraterrestrial. We didn't invent any of it. So that means other races out there long since have developed this stuff, and we're beginning to get their little dribbles, of it, basically. Satellite technology, telecommunication systems through fiber optics, it's all extraterrestrial based. Nobody knew anything about this before World War II. All of a sudden, after World War II, we got all this technology. How brilliant we are.
How fast it moved forward.
And the problem with getting technology you're not ready for is that people will abuse and it becomes destructive because they haven't earned it. They haven't gone through an experience of acquiring it. People from other worlds understand this about people on Earth. They know exactly how we got this technology, and they know what they did to prevent certain races from annihilating us, because they have. We're not alone in the universe, Gail. If we were, we would all be dead. Think about it. Any people, men and women, who would decide it's a cool thing to set off a hydrogen bomb with radioactive half-lives of in our own atmosphere just to test it, are too insane not to push the button when they get too terrorized. The same people actually pushed the button 12 separate times after World War II.
12? Did you say 12? Wow.
Any time the launch computers were shut down. Not from us, from people who won't tolerate us blowing ourselves up, because we don't have the right to annihilate ourselves and harm hundreds of billions of other life and life forms in parallel dimensions and out in space. We don't have that right. You're going to blow yourselves up and not affect anything else, go ahead. But if it's going to affect a lot more than you understand even exists, then there are beings who are not going to tolerate it. And I'm in complete harmony with them about this, of course. The beings I work with are not interested in running the governments of this planet. But they are interested in seeing to it that the governments of this planet become free of fear, and the people, so that they can make good decisions about requesting assistance from outside this world and being able to work comfortably with greatly advanced technologies and not having subconscious terror manipulate what they do with it, because it would be destructive. It's known clearly. It's not conjecture. They know exactly what we'd do with it. So we're not alone. That's number one. That's why when I say to people, I'm not concerned about World War III or the end of the planet or Armageddon, because that's already been prevented a number of times, and people on Earth don't have any idea that was stopped by forces outside of this world. That's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
They didn't try to control the guy. Now, tyrants would try to get control of an elite, which they did for a short time, by manipulating their subconscious, by creating one. It's a misuse of advanced extraterrestrial technology. That was done to people before they were compelled to come here. All this terrorizing stuff is reversible. It can be neutralized under the right conditions, but it takes the co-creative free will cooperation of each individual. Tyrants aren't, if you're not a tyrant, you're not going to come here and wave a magic wand and set someone free and give them all their higher faculties back, because they haven't used those higher faculties in maybe 1 billion years of lifetimes. And they would just make too many mistakes and destroy creation with it. You got to wake up parallel to that, the wisdom and understanding of how to use it correctly and why. Then these higher faculties can be turned back on in us so that we can use them properly with others from other worlds and other realities.
So that will require some schooling and some mentoring or teaching from those that are already advanced beyond what we know.
Sure. All I do is make a connection for people to be able to meet with advanced teachers and trainers, highly educated people who know what they're doing with getting rid of implants, for instance, helping a person be free of a subconscious influences, age reversal, all this kind of thing. No disease, getting rid of disease. These are old sciences out there, not new. Anti-gravitic propulsion and how to get around the universe is also very, 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 very ancient. Not new, except to people on Earth in this present culture. So there's a lot people have to recover to be able to, shall we say, walk into embracing this and not freak out or be in terror or whatever. I've often said that if a man and woman, beautiful, radiant energy, big eyes, and beautiful, they could be Caucasian, they could be African American, they could be Indian, any one of these races could come here in a ship, because all those races evolved out in the universe and other worlds and were brought here during a history people don't remember, usually as slaves to do the dirty work, and left here to procreate with genomes shut down on their DNA. It's a long history people on Earth don't know about yet. It's their history, but they've been terrorized to forget about it. I'll make that very clear. Anybody listening and really understands anything at all will know they're afraid down deep to know who they are as this, not this, and what its purpose is in eternity. Because when they do that, they have to take on the responsibility, experiment of evil. Because way back before the beginning of time and space, we were all there. The Atma is not made of matter. It did not come into existence in time and space. Ultimately, we're all part of that supreme source. Prime Creator Source is made of an energy exactly the same as we are, identical. We're not secondary creations of it. It's not a tyrant running us like little computer pieces on a chessboard. We are part of that same primordial, omnipresent, living one power, individualized. This is the kind of thing people need to recover to play among the stars properly with others. Might seem like something just too far away from people because they've been trained to always put enlightenment so far away from themselves. The Supreme Being is so much more knowledgeable and so far removed, you can never get to it.
Oh, yes, that is a big one.
And this is not true. For the brain and body, yes, because it's only one lifetime. But for the being running this body unconsciously, no. It has the ability. But it needs to remember this. It needs to feel safe and covered. That kind of thing. So what we'll do, we'll go on a little journey.
They heard the cat.
Are you going to be doing that all through our journey, hissing and telling the dog to stop barking?
No, they heard the cat meowing, and that's what started them barking.
Oh, you got a cat there too?
No, that was your cat.
Oh, my cat's asleep. Look.
Well, we heard her meow. Maybe it's somebody else's cat, then. I don't have a cat.
Yeah, probably somebody else's cat. Starlight's already out of his body.
Let me...
All right, so for the radio, see that little kitty? That is a snowshoe. There is an Atma like us running that cat body. He's not human, but he's just as advanced. And this little guy goes out of his body every time I do a radio show or get on the phone with anybody dealing with my work. And he joins us on these, and he's being trained. The way people regard Atmas running animal bodies on other planets is incredibly different than the unconscious way people treat other life on this world. On this world, they're driven by subconscious passions of a negative nature. Killing, not just people, but animals as well, is not normal behavior for more advanced life. It isn't. So I will say that to people because if they ever want to remember who they are, part of what they'll change, how they'll change, has to do with letting go of things that keep them trapped. And they're afraid to let go. That's all it is. It's artificial. The more I say this to people, the better off they're going to be because they'll begin to remember it for themselves. I would ask that people get comfortable, close their eyes, sit back in a chair, including you, because I'm doing the same thing. If you want to make any advances, then the only way to do it is to actually practice using your higher faculties, the ones that come from the Atma, like the one that's hovering above your head, Gail, right now, running that brain and those eyes, and it's spherical soul. When I do this, my body also goes into the trance state called sleep. Again, when I say trance state, I do not mean hypnosis or hypnotic nature. It is me putting the body on automatic running the heart, lungs, blood circulation, so that I can go out and explore the multiverse and remember and recover more about who I am and help other people to recover this as well. I would ask people to take several deep breaths. When you breathe out all your concerns for this life. Health, finance, how long you live, when you're going to die, what's true, what isn't. Just put it all aside for just a short period of time, because you have the free will ability to actually do this. You're putting aside fear of the present and the future, any negative emotion or imagination, and you're going to turn it all off with the body that goes safely into sleep. And as you listen to my voice, you, the being, are going to remain conscious, and we'll go on a journey. It's okay if you still feel your physical body or if you lose awareness of it from time to time. It's all okay. Imagine someone you love and respect and you're grateful they're in your life. Person, place, or thing, but something that's genuine. So when I imagine Starlight, my good buddy there, I just smile inside and I'm there. It's constructive, it's positive, it's good. So there's a link created through the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and it's a conscious link to what I am as the Atma hovering above this body. And I begin to have the pineal gland secrete serotonin, makes melatonin, and I put that body on automatic. It's basically the brain's not working. The eyes are off. And as I begin to see what, in other words, when people begin to see and explore what I'm sharing with them, this is telepathic, Atma to Atma. And they begin to see stuff and understand that they can see stuff and perceive stuff and know stuff separate from the body. On our return from this journey, we'll be bringing back the memory of this experience beyond the brain and body to that form so that you begin to enlighten it with that which has not been taught to you on earth. I send out the hue. I'll mute your mic, Gail, because then we get better signal for recording this journey. I've already muted it, Gail, from my end. I'll unmute it when we're done. This has to do with bandwidth and getting a good recording for the session, because once it's recorded, I'll send it to Gail. She'll put it on her YouTube channel, and then everybody can benefit from it. And the best part about it is there's no cost or charge. No financial or monetary system involved in this aspect of my work on this planet. I will begin to send out these tones. Now they assist you to put your body to sleep while you stay awake as a being. And they will do this for your astral, causal, mental, and etheric forms you're running that most of you don't remember you're doing this. But they too will go into a sleep state, and then you, the whole spherical being, will go with us on this journey. I'll begin those tones now. Safely show us deliberately hidden truth on a grand multidimensional scale, and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it. These words are very carefully put together with very advanced beings, friends of mine, kind beings, myself, from out of town, from off planet. Safely show us deliberately hidden truth on a grand multidimensional scale means recovering your ability to know and understand life in the grand multidimensional creation on all levels. And the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it is knowing with certainty all the different life and respecting all life that exists out in the multiverse, up to the void, beyond it, in the upper worlds and other planets, etc. We become multidimensional citizens in creation. If people want to be free on Earth, there is a requirement. They must know and respect life in the multidimensional universe in order to play in it, or they will restrict themselves from doing so. We are spherical beings. I'm going to show you now in a shared screen what this looks like. And when you're maybe reviewing this, you can take a look at this, but don't open your eyes now. Just understand that we are spherically shaped beings. What we call a human being is not a human body. There's a white core, and there's a layer of yellow energy around it, and then kind of orange, then red, then green, then blue, then lavender, then violet. There's a white golden light surrounding it. And this is energy that is the same as the source prime creator behind all life. It is not an energy that has ever required that we worship it. What is necessary is that we respect the source from whence we all come and all life in the grand multidimensional creation. If you can do that, you can be free to play in it, to create in it, to be aware of it, to be free from the illusion of lives and deaths, baby bodies and growing up and growing old and dying. This has nothing to do with the Atma itself. We are spherical beings, what people on earth call soul. It is energy. It is practical. It is science in a way, but a much higher science. Science meaning the understanding of how the multi-creation works on each level. You are a spherical being hovering above your body. Just like when you daydream, imagine you are above your body, a white core in a spherical being looking down on that body kindly. The body is in the trance state called sleep. Peaceful, restful. It's the same way you put it in every night like experts without really remembering or being conscious of how the heck you're doing it. But you are doing it. Not knowing how you're doing it consciously is because there is fear in the way of you embracing direct knowing awareness. It is the fear which is artificially created, not a natural emotion of being at all, that needs to be dropped. This means each person must discover and awaken how to not put their attention there anymore. In this way, you simply turn off that negative program. It gets its energy to run to affect our nervous system in a negative, suppressive way from us, the Atma. Something was done to the Atma to compel it to do this against itself. This process begins to liberate or undo that negative programming. Be above your body in the atmosphere, above where you live at 5,000 feet. Looking down on, for Gail, Sedona. And the red plateaus and mesas and the forests up by, up the road that goes up to the forests up there. For me, in Lake Forest, hours south of Los Angeles, not far from Laguna Beach, underneath giant eucalyptus forest. For any of you, for wherever you are on Earth, you're looking down on your environment. Whether it's day or night, you will see it as bright daylight. The Atma sees everything illumined. Be in the atmosphere, above planet Earth. In other words, be out in space. You're not alone. I am there. Gail is there. You will see these spherical beings hovering nearby you. You're safe. Nothing of any negative nature whatsoever can approach us working in the hue, because it is master over all negative lower dimensional things. We get above the atmosphere of Earth to get outside of its negative influences. It's like you're the space shuttle. As an Atma, not nuclear in nature, not material. You are part of the energy, individualized, that is what people call dark matter. The black void between the Earth and the moon and the sun and the stars and other galaxies is really not black at all. It is actually a white golden light packed full of energy. And scientists even on Earth know this now. What they call 0 point or toroidal energy is this energy. This is the energy that we have a telepathic link with that goes through that energy on different vibrational levels all the way back to the source from whence we originated as the Atma. The real human being is not a human body. So you see, the whole idea of resurrection isn't about resurrecting a human body, unless you want to get into another lifetime unconscious. It's about awakening the Atma that is not a human body. I hope that's clear. Because it is what survives in eternity. It has an origin. but each of us had an origin in a place in a higher dimension before the worlds of time and space were even created. So you see, recovering who you are recovers your awareness of, conscious awareness of, and confidence to co-create with the source behind all life. This is our true purpose. You don't feel cold. You don't feel radiation from the sun. You don't get hungry. When you're in space, hovering, you can see my friend Ambassador Turellian, who is the ambassador of the Say race, the most ancient human race, billions of years old, that immortalized their physical bodies in a certain way over 1 billion years ago. We get our genomes for the DNA bodies we have from them. You could call them higher scientists back then. They seeded human and humanoid and other bipedal life forms in the universes and in the astral and physical dimensions long ago and helped nurture them up to spacefaring capability before they departed. And they've been gone for a very long time. They recently began to return because they themselves went through a consciousness change to take on the responsibility once again of nurturing the younger races, actually the Atma, to be aware it's running a body, to nurture them to go further, away from the self-destructive tendencies. Turellian is showing you his body now. It's in the center, and myself and Gail and other master teachers I know not from Earth are in a circle, several dozen, around Turellian, high above the planet Earth with its polar ice caps and its barren crater-marked covered moon that does not turn on its axis. His body is about 18 feet tall. You can see the sphere he is hovering behind it. He has long, curly blonde hair, slightly curvy, big blue eyes, a little bigger than humans, handsome like a Greek god. And he's got 2 thumbs up he's given us, and he does this because it's a type of energy he emits that maintains a certainty of knowing and a confidence of support for all of us until we can recover how to do this ourselves. So Turellian is doing that. He serves as a focal point to keep us focused upon that which will be constructive. The universe is vast. There are both negative and positive things in it, and we don't have time to explore getting caught up in either. We want to go from here to much higher reality in this journey. You can see a little creature named Dren. He's 3 feet long from the tip of his nose to his tail, silica-based, not carbon-based, very brilliant, courageous to a fault, photographic memory, vocal cords like us, looks kind of like a floating salamander. Well, it's not really quite how to describe him. But he's standing upright on his hind legs with his tail glowing opalescent, like a crystal opal in bright sunlight. This species that evolved on a planet called Oceania evolved the ability to defy gravity and fly through the air as a physical being. Silica-based, remember, not carbon. He's also a master teacher now. He's a very ancient friend of mine. And he's here to show you that there is an Atma, him, hovering above that Dren body. He's wiggling his fingers at us. It's very cute. Just saying hello. He's not human. He's a very kind being, pale, kind of a green skin, not wet like a salamander, not moist like that. He's got a long jaw, and it looks like when his mouth is closed, like he's amused about something. Big bulbous blue eyes, dexterous hands and feet, little fingers and 5 on each hands and toes like a human, but he's not human. Has a wife and 2 kids, both grown now. And then you can see Starlight. I showed people this earlier on camera. There is him standing on his hind legs with his tail glowing. Etna's been teaching him. And behind him is the real Starlight, the Atma, looks like us running it. This is a very advanced being. He's someone I respect as a fellow being, someone I love and cherish as a fellow being, like a brother. And yet he's not human. People on Earth need to become accustomed to and used to appreciating, respecting life out in the universe if they want to play in it. When you look at Earth, you see the polar ice caps, the oceans, land masses you would see from space, from a Hubble shot or photograph, or from somebody working a camera in the space shuttle that doesn't fly anymore, that kind of thing. Satellite image. And you can see the moon that doesn't turn on its axis. It's all covered with meteor craters, and it moves around the Earth in an orbit without turning. And then you see the sun off in the distance. And you see from here, there is a white golden light filling the void of space. When you look at a Hubble time-lapse photography of millions of galaxies you can find online, then you see that that looks to be like a black void supporting all that, but it isn't. You, the Atma, can see it for what it is, a white light with a golden essence, packed between the Earth and the moon, other stars, other galaxies, other realities. And it is a medium of life. It's an energy that is a living, conscious energy. And we have our association and connection to it telepathically through the hue. The hue is a universal way to link with this. It was not developed by anyone ever on Earth. Any organization on Earth that utilizes it does not possess or patent it or own it. They didn't invent it. It isn't from Earth, and it isn't from Venus or Mars or the solar system or this galaxy. It's not even from this dimension. And it runs as a sound, a first sound through the entire creation. People talk about music of the spheres. It means they're hearing sounds coming off other realities, from other planets or other dimensions. This is the hue in its different levels. This sound, what it resembles, is the first word behind creation, and it's always been here. Although the first word is not described in books on Earth, certainly not major religious books, it is the missing word, so to speak. It's also the first half of the word human, hue woman, hue child, human. This will bring enlightenment and an uplifted, peaceful, protected energy into anybody's life that works with it sincerely. It is its nature. There is a golden essence running through that white original light of the omnipresent first sound behind creation, called the new ray. And it's a consciousness that was developed in the upper worlds and is being imparted to the lower dimensions of time and space that only works one way. And this is to encourage all beings to recover their awareness and gain the wisdom of how to use the creative imagination only for the uplifting benefit of all life, which includes themselves. It is designed to neutralize and retire evil as an experiment wherever it crosses paths with it. Anything that holds back the Atma, the soul, the real spherical being, from progressing and fulfilling its purpose to be a co-creator with the source can be considered as evil. Anything. In other words, anything that's negative nature that grounds people into illusion, makes them feel their bodies, this is all what you'd call negative. It is not our nature as the Atma to have any negative nature whatsoever. Remember this. We are in space above planet Earth. You're looking at the polar ice caps, and suddenly the planet transforms like a heat wave in the desert. Something Torellian and I are doing, but you'll see that the poles of the planet now have no polar ice caps. There's a big continent extended over the equator from the left to the right hemisphere, and it goes gradually up to the North Pole, about a third of the way from it, and continues to gradually come down to the right hemisphere. Same below. Down below, about a third of the way up from the southern pole, is a crescent-shaped emerald green beach glowing. You can see it from space. When you look over at the moon now, it is different. It has an oxygen atmosphere and clouds and botanical gardens, 5 domed cities on its surface, covering 3 gold-sided quartz cap pyramids and dome training structures, lakes and rivers. This is a moon that's alive. It's turning on its axis. On the backside, as it comes into view, you see several dome cities high in a mountainous area. We are looking at a higher parallel dimension of the physical universe from space. All that's happened is we've raised the molecular time rate to that of a parallel dimension, third one above where we are. Remember, there's 144 parallel dimensions in each major division. And we are looking at an Earth that exists right now, protected, in a parallel dimension, a little higher frequency than what we're used to seeing on Earth. This is a prototype that is going to be utilized to make Earth and the Moon like this one day. You see that green beach down there? You can see this beautiful ocean surrounding this world with no polar ice caps. You're going to find all of us, Turellian is starting to move downward, and as a circle of spherical beings, we're moving downward into the atmosphere until we find our bare feet wiggling our toes into that emerald green sand. And you reach down and pick up the sand and look at it in your hand, and it's little polished, pure crystal emeralds. And they're glowing. The energy is moving in your hand and up your feet, and it feels cooling and warm. It goes up through the top of your head, smiling. You look up and see the Atma you are, the spherical being you really are, hovering there. This body you're experiencing here is made of energy. It is not nuclear. It's not a physical body, but it looks like you. About 36, perfectly healthy in every way. And this is so you can experience the feeling of the beach and the toes in the sand, smell the air. It has no pollutants in it. No pollutants in the ocean, this blue-green ocean behind you. And you can see Turellian, 18 feet tall, standing in this ocean offshore with the ocean up to his knees, giving us 2 thumbs up. In the distance inland, the back of this crescent-shaped beach, you can see a brown moss-covered path, jungle going backwards. And in the distance, you can see a single snow-capped mountain off to the right, and off to the left on a lower plateau, a very large clear dome city, covering 3 4-sided golden pyramids with quartz caps, a lake, little ivory domes and little white walkways, a semicircular mountain range in the back with waterfalls. That's for the aesthetic pleasure of the people who work here. And if you look at the mountain up on the right, you can see a waterfall cascading out of a cavern, 2/3 of the way towards the summit, dropping down a sheer cliff face, disappearing into a blue-green forest behind the backside of this dome city. It is luminous because it's like got a phosphorescent mineral in it that glows. And above it is another cavern, semi-sphere, and little semi-spherical domes going back into the interior. It's a cavern opening that ships come out of and go into to reach this parallel dimension. And it goes into a base built inside Mount Shasta in Northern California. It is an extraterrestrial human base manned by human and humanoid and other races that are kind, that have prevented us from having nuclear war. If they hadn't been here, we'd all be dead. The base is kept in a slightly higher frequency so that it is you can't attack it. You can't detect it on radar unless they want you to be aware of it. And that was built there in 1908. So you see, we're not alone. These beings don't want to run our governments. They want us to grow up. Many of the beings that are unconscious on their bodies today were once great beings out in the universe long ago. The beings who come here in ships and those that can come here as master teachers without ships know this. At least they do now. Fortunately for all of us that still live on this planet. You can see inland down this moss-covered path, straight as an arrow, that there is a white marble floor about a mile inland or so, and there is a statue of a woman standing in the center of it. And you're going to find yourself hovering as a spherical being, aware of who you are, in a circle, Tyrellian standing above the top of this statue in the atmosphere. And you can see that this is the statue of a woman, 10 feet tall, with long silver metallic hair. It looks like silver metal, but it's soft. You just know it. This is made of quartz, polished and perfect. She has two big wings sticking out of her back like that of an angel, but she's not from an angelic order. The wings simply represent the ability of the Atma that's running this physical-looking form to travel the universe. And when you look in the eyes of this woman, she has a long, elegant dress on, ivory-colored skin. She has violet eyes, very beautiful, slightly pointed ears. And you can see it as if the person is standing just inside the surface of this quartz crystal that's shaped just like her. This is a representation of a woman from another planet. This woman and her mate live on a world called Zientronomon 1. It's on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, in the physical parallel dimension we're used to, like Earth. But they are very different from us. When you look into the eyes, the violet eyes of this being, you feel like you're drawn inside, and in a moment you find yourself hovering in a radiant green energy, like in a big coliseum. And you can see this woman standing there in the air in bare feet, and beside her, her mate, slightly taller, with silver hair and violet eyes. And they are simply showing you, in this green atmosphere, the source of this green energy. You can feel your feet back in the sand, still working your toes into the emerald green glowing energy. It flows up your spine, up the top of your head, goes into the white core of your being, hovering above it, and out to the green layer. There is a green layer of light with different faculties in it, and it is charging some of those. This has to do with memory and recall. Now you're in this green void again, and you're hovering there as an Atma in front of this man and woman. You can see an Atma hovering above each of their heads. This is who they really are. The form is made of energy. They're just showing you what they look like. These two bodies they're showing you on their home world were immortalized. It means they're more than 3.5 million years old unaged. When you think of Tyrellian hovering above the statue, outside the statue, now you can see him standing in the background behind them, in this huge Colosseum type green energy field. And they're beginning to talk with you, each of you, telepathically. And when you look at Tyrellian standing there in his physical form, 18 foot tall, much taller than them, he is telling you that his body was also immortalized, but in a different way. Over 1 billion years ago, when the Seres were done seeding life in the physical universes and astral, they immortalized their bodies. They didn't get them to live forever. They dematerialized them and drew them up and stored them as a DNA program in one of the teardrop shapes in one level of the Atma they are. So when they want to manifest a physical form anywhere for any purpose, they will work with the omnipresent living field of hue energy around them and charge that DNA and manifest instantly a physical form. So that's kind of what he's doing when he's showing you his body form, except it's not physical. It's pure energy that looks physical. But they have the ability to manifest a physical form if need be, whenever they wish. They don't have the burden of pushing around a physical body during a lifetime like we do. They're more advanced. 2 forms of immortalization. The beings who run the 3.5 million year old Zientronomus, that's the race, on Zientronomon 1, are genetic scientists, you might say. They learned from the Seres, like Ambassador Tyrellian, long ago. They are not suffering from the illusion that they are those bodies they have running for 3.5 million years. They keep them there to be examples for their race of beings they oversee. And that comprises more than half of the entire Milky Way galaxy, part of the galaxy that never has gone to war. Wars that happened in our galaxy happened in the other half, where the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds exists. It's an organization I work with, and master teachers who work with it and those that work beyond it from other dimensions. They're just showing you in this green field of energy what they're like. If you ask this of them, I can tell you their names. They may be a little hard for you to pronounce at first, but the man's name is Zanantalus. His wife's name is Muntis. Muntis. Almost Egyptian sounding, but they're not from Egypt. And if you want to call on them at night when you're out of your body before you go to bed, just simply send out these words. Safely show me deliberately hidden truth on a grand multidimensional scale, and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it, and then go to sleep. In this way, when you work with the hue, sending out the hue 4 or 5 times at night, relax, be without fear. Do not take fear into the dream state at night when you put the body to sleep. Let go of it, drop it aside, and then go to sleep peacefully. And they will assist you. And others from the Galactic Alliance can assist all of you when you're out of your body at night when the body's asleep. So you get more comfortable with making these leaps in conscious awareness, even on a planet as backward as Earth is. Then you're up above the atmosphere, above this statue, standing on this white circular marble floor, surrounded by tall lavender grass, and over in the distance in a curve are what look like to be tall weeping willow trees with blue-green spoon-shaped luminous leaves. And there's a blue-green river lazily moving beyond it like a riverbank. It comes from that single snow-capped mountain up above, from that waterfall. This is a parallel dimension on Earth in a higher frequency. The dome city that's there at the base of the mountain has people from the Galactic Alliance, master teachers from not just the physical universe, but from higher dimensions working there. And they are working to implement the ways to transform a world like Earth without destruction. The way this world works without impurities is being set up as a prototype so that one day when people are awake, the world and the moon they have now will change in this way. Consider it much higher science. In other words, they know how to co-create with the omnipresent living energy, changing things like this. Now you're above this Earth, looking at the Earth with its no polar ice caps, this big continent, and you can see in glowing golden letters the word Lemuria, or Mu, flash across the continent and fade. You can see right through the planet, there's another continent 2/3 its size, and it says Atma, or Atlantis. These are land masses run by benevolent beings on this world whose poles never flip psychically like they have been doing on the Earth you're aware of. Polar flips on Earth, on the planet you know of, were cyclically and continued until they were recently permanently suspended for good. That means we won't have another golden age to iron age and a destruction of all life on the surface as we've had before. This is in preparation to help this world change its direction from a destructive Armageddon into an unexpected uplifting destiny. People need to become more aware. It exists and things have changed. In space, there's Terrellian, his 18-foot tall body hovering in front of the true being he is. You can see my form, about 36, hovering in front of mine, and Gail's. In fact, all of you on this journey will see your own form, made of energy, looks just like you, about 36, hovering in front of the Atma you really are. You are a spherical being. You are made of an energy that is not nuclear. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be harmed by negative beings in or out of bodies or through the misuse of science. The more you know this and what you are as a being, the better off you'll be and more in control of your life and changing how you create your life in a more constructive, uplifting manner. This is a journey just above the earth into a parallel dimension of earth, working with beings and master teachers like Terrellian and the Zientranamus couple, Das Ventalis and Fresun Muntis, with the silver hair and violet eyes. They're human like us, but much more evolved. For instance, they don't have two-stranded DNA. They're four-stranded. There are many dimensions above here. And since this journey is for practical purposes, this time, this radio show, we will not be going to the upper worlds, above the void. But we can do that in the next show. We've done this before in previous shows, but since this show with Gail has not been aired for quite some time, we're going to, how do I put this? We're going to ground this experience first and then go into deeper journeys. You are in space hovering around Terrellian. I want to show you something. You're going to see several hundred other spheres of beings begin to appear in a circle, a sphere around us. They are masculine and feminine beings, spheres. You're going to see body forms manifest in front of them, beautifully dressed, men and women, about 36, ageless. And then two of them, a man and a woman, are going to approach each one of you. And they're going to be smiling. They're going to have their right hand up in greeting. And then they're simply going to be in telepathic communication with you. These are master teachers in the Galactic Alliance. They work in the Galactic Alliance organization, but they also work beyond it from other dimensions and realities. And if you ask this man and woman, human, humanoid, or bipedal other alien creatures, depending on what you're affinitized to, and you ask them to assist you at night when you're out of your body, to help you go further, all you have to do is give them permission, because they will never force their will on you, to assist you to remember who you are. They will work with you in a way that helps you make these changes in consciousness while your life on earth becomes more balanced, not the other way around. I will be silent for a bit so that you can speak with them. Telepathy is quite quick and direct and productive. It doesn't take time and space to hear or respond. It's complete. Telepathic communication is not psychic communication. It works only with the pure sound behind all creation. It cannot be penetrated by any form of negativity or negative being or technology. It comes with a certain protection when you work with it. Each of you must experience for yourselves. You're going to see these beings, these several hundred beings around us, suddenly disappear. And we are looking down on the earth with the Lemurian continent in a parallel dimension where it never sank, has never been destroyed. And then you see the earth you're used to with polar ice caps and the moon with craters. Then you find yourself hovering above your physical body back on earth as a spherical being, bringing the awareness of this experience, sending a little beam of white golden light down into your pineal gland in the brain, where it radiates outward in a sphere. It goes through your body and continues outward in a continuous flow. This is the hue itself, pure, no negative nature whatsoever. And it is moving through you by your own creative free will for your benefit and for the benefit of all life beyond you. When you're ready, open your eyes. I will turn on your mic, Gail.
Okay.
Yeah, because of what had to be said for whatever reason, and our journey did not go into the upper worlds.
It's okay.
But we're working with upper world energy where we're working during this session. So next time we can go into the upper worlds, particularly to a place called the U Expansion Ray Academy.
Yes, yes. Well, I thought it was nice to go to the parallel Earth and envision some of the things there.
And you know why we do that? Because that Earth, it's in the same place where we are, but at a higher frequency, has no pollution, negative thoughts, or beings. So it's good to start these journeys in a place that is not like the Earth we're living in.
Exactly.
We want to bring that kind of awareness back with us to here.
Yes.
Okay, so I will say sayonara for now to all of your those people who have joined us on this journey. And Gail, would you like to say anything else, or to your listeners, or anything like that?
Just that I hope that they enjoy the journey and know that utilizing your imagination is so important, and dispelling the negative as quickly as possible is very important. And I work on it every day myself. So that's why I wanted to do these journeys. That's why I've learned a great deal from Scott, and I think you can too. So like I said, I hope you enjoy the journey and use that imagination and imagine the world we want, not what we don't want.
Okay, this is one of 2 books I've published that are available worldwide. The Ceres Agenda. For those who don't know, this is a mile-long cylindrical-shaped emerald star cruiser. And these are galactic 30-foot in diameter scout craft, modern ones, little semi-strict pods underneath. They go into and out of this craft by changing their molecular time rate. So there's no launch bays here. The hangar bay is in the center of the craft here. There are bridge control rooms on each end. This is a Galactic Alliance vessel. It's stationed in the ice rings that make up the rings of Saturn in our solar system.
Yes, and there are images in there that you can see that will help you to visualize some of the journeys that we go on. And
not this book.
That one's in the Emerald Doorway, right?
Yeah, this is another book, which is the first book of the Parallel Time Trilogy. Do you remember I showed you this symbol? This image of what a soul or Atma actually looks like is here. Hovering above these 3 people's heads, they're hovering on antigravitic discs. There's Etta. There's Captain Kalem's ship hovering stationary. It's a doorway to the 5th plane above the void, to the first realm of the higher worlds. And this is the ancient one that this master teacher with his golden staff is introducing to these 3 people for the first time. This was 100,000 years ago, after the poles flipped on our planet, destroyed all life on the surface. New continents rose up. And this is book 1 of the Parallel Time Trilogy. There are over 30 illustrations in here, including Etta. So you get an idea of what happened a long time ago, how parallel dimensions and time rates work. See if I can show you real quick what Etta looks like, because he's such an adorable guy.
Yes, he's quite the character.
He's a cute little guy. Oh, here he is.
Yes. I really enjoy that book because of I enjoy the pictures and images and so on. But the Ceres Agenda, too, is very, tells you what's going on pretty much now.
Right. This is more of a book about how extraterrestrials evolved in Earth long ago. And this is a book about what extraterrestrial races are doing outside of our Earth today. That's different than they've ever done before, that has to do with the changing destiny for this planet in a good way. So people can learn. They're published worldwide so that people can get a grounded understanding of what it is we're doing in these sessions. Because hidden truth is revealed in such a way that it helps wake that up into people who explore or go on the adventure of reading them. And they're available through Amazon and all these other places in digital, either a downloadable ebook or a paperback, because it's the only way I can get this out to people worldwide. It isn't about selling books. It's about providing people with a grounded understanding of what we have to do when we go on these journeys so they can recover who they are. There's no money involved in this. The books have to be sold because otherwise Amazon, other people wouldn't work with me at all. It's the nature of this planet. So if you get the books and you explore them, you'll understand so much more about what this journey was about. And other things begin to wake up in people. I'm also a composer. There's an album called Stranger on a Lost Island. And these are key characters. There's the master teacher. I don't know how well you can see this with.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a glare to it. But I do play a little clip from one of the songs on there at the very end of the show.
There we go. This is a blue-skinned woman from another planet coming up a boat. You can see a reflection here of the sky in her world. Mm-hmm. And then an opening through these pillars. This master teacher, Ramu, has a crystal quartz staff glowing golden with an Egyptian ankh on top, a symbol for eternal life. There's planet Earth, and he's going to take her on a journey through here to Stranger on a Lost Island, which is about planet Earth. Just want you to know that because the music can help in a way to help you go into a contemplation, meditation, listen to the sound, then go into your own hue. You can go to my website at paralleltime.com and click on a link at the top that says About Scott-Hugh. And it goes to a page with 2 recordings of my voice. One is nearly 24 minutes long, and it's in 3-part harmony, and I'm sending out the hue continuously. It's looped, so it's one solid tone. If you listen to it, you'll hear a round whole tone running through it that was not recorded. That Tyrrellian had something to do with that. So it becomes a bit of something if you get in trouble, get in fear, go to the website, it's free, play that, do your own hue with it, go with it, and it'll turn off these negative things.
And I can vouch for that because not only for myself, but some of the people that I told about this that did it and listened actually said it brought peace to them.
Yeah, serenity. It will protect. It helps a person turn their imagination to co-creating, cooperating with the omnipresent force they think is Holy Spirit. Okay, they call it holy this and that. They don't know what that means. Or supreme being this or that. This is way beyond that. It has to do with the actual benevolent source behind all life. We are expected to be co-creators with it. And that's a big responsibility. For us to wake up as beings, we have to recover knowing this. That's what
we're part of it too.
You want to know about extraterrestrials? You want a spaceship ride? It's like riding a bus to those people. No big deal. But to people on Earth that have been purposefully and deliberately shut down, it becomes quite exciting. What's more important than a spaceship ride initially is recovering who you are. So when that experience comes your way, you can stand with your head held high amongst your peers from other worlds. You respect them, they respect you. It's just that simple. Okay, Gail, I will stop the recording with your permission and end this show. Anything else you wish to say?
Yes, thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the journey. And please feel free to listen to the journey again and use that hue sound on Scott's site.
Yeah, when you do it, try to find a time and day when you will have a couple hours uninterrupted by anything, phones or anything else. And then go into it again, and you're going to find you're going to see and experience and know a lot more the second time around. So I wish everybody wonderful dreams, and work with these people when you're out of your body at night. Why? Because you're out of your body at night anyway every night. You might as well make it consciously enlightening and productive.
And give them permission. They want permission.
Right, they do.
Okay.
I'm a stranger on a lost island, somewhere in the universe. Stranger on a lost island, on this island Earth. I'm a stranger on a lost island, somewhere in the universe. Stranger on a lost island, on this island Earth. I was just a little boy, I was different from my friends. Looking up in the stars at night, I feel homesick loneliness. I'd share a vision of a faraway planet where I once was given birth. Then reminisce of past civilizations no history reveals about Earth. Wide-eyed in fear, my friends stared at me, too confused to understand. They walked away in haste to spurn me like I was quicksand. Now I'm a stranger on the lost island. Some